Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, as Mara mentioned, my name is Camilo Zamora with TMG, and TMG had the honor and the pleasure to work with the DSA and the FCDO and analysis of the small operators, small wireless operators market in the 5 countries that we are going to see soon in the screen. But of course, it's Nigeria, it's South Africa, Kenya, Indonesia, and Brazil. Oh, yeah. So here we go. So the idea will be to to talk a little bit about the broader conclusions of out of these 5 countries. And of course, do a little bit of emphasis on Brazil because here's where we are. And honestly, we will see it's one of the most advanced countries, or the most advanced countries, if I may, out of this sample, of these 5 countries. So, well, let me see if this works. Yes, here we are. Those are the 5 countries that we had the pleasure of doing the study. We will see, 3 different continents, 3 different realities. It's not possible to compare, directly the conclusions, but we can see factors that influence the level of development of a small ISP providers market. And honestly, a little bit of my background. I used to work in the Colombian spectrum regulator, and it's very normal that the agenda of the regulators is pretty much busy with the big operators. They have so much work to do. They participate in so many projects that is very normal. But turn and watch and then take a look of this small providers market. It's very interesting. I have to say that, those providers are able to reach regions that big operators are not reaching already. And sometimes they can be, good allies to help closing digital divide, reaching rural and remote areas that already they are there. So sometimes what they need is a little bit of fostering, a little bit of focus, a little bit of resources, of course, and then we have a vibrant ecosystem. As spoiler alert, we have in Brazil. So please take this graphic as a grain of salt. This is not a direct comparison. This is more of a quick conclusion of where we are and where we see the countries happening. So we have Brazil here, and we are going to focus on Brazil for this presentation. But we have also Indonesia and South Africa and Kenya and Nigeria in different stages of the development of the WISP market. This is not good. This is not bad. This is just different. It's not a matter of comparison, direct comparison. It's more of a understand where we are. And to also get value of the measures, for example, taken by Brazil for the past, I would say, 10 years to promote the market and be in this position. But there is also another very good examples on other countries. Like in Indonesia, they have a very strong association. The association works in IXP servers, in submarine cables, in deploying fiber. This is very interesting. Also in South Africa, they have 2 strong associations. They help them a lot to talk with the regulator, In Nigeria, it's a nascent ecosystem. It's very interesting to see that they are still niche operators and they are starting to expand like pretty much small operators in Brazil did like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So factors considered, you will see fixed broadband penetration. Of course, this is the result basically of the strategy. Regulation for WISP, there is a specific regulation in some countries. There is not a specific regulation in some others, and we will see the differences. Number of WISP and market share, and access to funding and spectrum use. And I would say that small operators that have access to spectrum, not only on license, but also license, as is the case in Brazil, where operators like Brisanet, I hope I'm pronouncing it well, uh, um, Ufinet, Ufinetti, um, they participated in the 5 gigahertz band. Sorry, in the 5G auction. Sorry, get distracted. In the 5G auction, and they acquire spectrum for 5G. So it's not only reduced to the big mobile operators, which is great. They will continue developing, but also small operators are getting to that market or to that business too. So this is very interesting, and this is thanks to policy support and other, I would say, measurements taken by Brazil in the previous years. So the internet market in Brazil. Just a quick facts. This is from Anatel. 200 million, over 250 million mobile connections. 80% of Brazilians are internet users. 44.5 millions of fixed connections. 90% of households have access to internet. That's great numbers. Um, for the first time, and I would like to share this fun fact, the share of households with fixed broadband subscriptions surpassed those with mobile broadband connections. And that accounts for a very vibrant ecosystem, that a very good competition between mobile and fixed broadband providers. And this is just healthy and useful for users all along the ecosystem. Um, Brazil West market. Let's dive into the Brazil West market. I would say this is a success case, and many of the ideas of the projects of the regulations taken or adopted by Brazil can serve or can be seen as good practices to copy or to adopt in other countries. So first, the result. The result is that. Oh, sorry about that. The result is that small regional providers comprise about 45% of the fixed broadband market. This is comparing with other markets. This is a big number, Um, but still, there is access to fiber backhaul and neutral networks. There's plenty of offer in most of the cases. There are other cases where still is a challenge to access, but for most of the cases, operators accounts or report that they have different options in the market. And we will see in this half of the graphic that you see, we see two things. But two things that are very related with what we are talking about today. Is that there is an extensive use um, of unlicensed spectrum. That's what we are talking about, the 6 gigahertz band. That's about why the projects on the 6 gigahertz band are very important for Brazil. So operators will report interferences challenges on the unlicensed bands use. But also there is a trend of wireless to fiber migration. But I will make a little bit of a disclaimer here, because we also see that there is an increasing interest of small operators to access to spectrum, to provide 5G connections, for example, fixed wireless access connections towards 5G. So what is necessary, maybe it's like happening in Brazil, to have to open some bands, 5G bands, for this kind of operators. But again, this is the case of Brazil. We see this happening. We see different trends in the West market, but I see those trends just as a result of policies implemented a long time ago. Um, the spectrum framework, it's fairly easy and straightforward process to obtain a spectrum license in different frequency bands. Of course, we're talking about the 5G license, which they need an auction process, but others, extensive use of licensed spectrum. Use of unlicensed spectrum will be beneficial for WISP. Qualcomm just mentioned this before this presentation, and other speakers has been mentioned the same thing. And this is also as a result of our conversations with small providers. Um, we all know already that we don't have image now, but yes, the use of the 6 gigahertz band is absolutely important, and Anatel is working on the use of the uh, both indoor and outdoor for the 60 hours span. So let's take a look at this slide just to kind of mention four factors that will help WISP market, or in Brazil's case, has helped WISP market to flourish. So targeted support to WISP. It's not necessarily only funding, but it's also regulation. So Brazil and has in place regulation specific for small providers called in Brazil proveedores de pequeno porte. There you go, close, right? Um, so there is a small provider. There is a specific framework for small providers, and that gives some easiness, that relieves some regulatory burden, because sometimes regulations are thinked for the big ones. It's very normal, they comprise or a fair share of the market. But then, if you transpose those regulations to small providers, they may have constraints or they may have challenges to to actually comply with the regulation. So I give you an example. It's not in Brazil. It's in Colombia. The regulation mandates that all internet providers has a place, a call center for the customers to, reach any problem in case of any problem. But the mandate was that the call center has to be open 24/7, which is normal and feasible for big operators. But for those who has only 30 employees or something like that, it was a big challenge. So in Colombia, they changed the regulation a little bit, and they say, well, if you have less than 25,000 users, then your call center should be able to work in wartime hours. And that change, it means a lot for these small operators. I'm talking about this targeted support for WISP, but also funding, of course, and programs like Funtel and the incentive with the ventures by the Ministry of Communications has been very useful for grow and foster and to take care of the uptake of the WISP operators. The access to fiber network is crucial. Not only all the backhaul access, it's all the almost important. Here in Brazil, we see two ways to access. There is wholesale agreements where big operators or wholesale operators partner with small ISPs to deploy the network, and they make agreements on that, but also government support to fiber development. So in both strategies works very well to actually reach additional capillarity on the fiber networks. And the work of the industry association, not only in Brazil, but in other places, has been crucial to provide a platform for those small operators to actually channel their needs, their specific needs, and also to be able to improve regulation and promote competition. But still, there are challenges. But for me, those challenges are, I would say, the consequence of the success. So of course, we see that is still internet access difference on the on or gaps, sorry, between the rural and urban areas. Of course, it's way much better in Brazil, yes, but still it's a challenge, yes. So I was looking for data, and I remember that there is states where you have 85% or 85 out of 100 households with internet service, whereas there is other states when you have only 25. So it's still a challenge. It depends on the geography. It depends on the specific problems for each state, but still it's a challenge. It's still a challenge in some places where the cost of interconnection could be a barrier for this very small. Here, I would like to call your attention. We are talking about proveedores de pequeño porte, but we have big providers on this side, and also we have very small providers. So here is more for the very small providers, where they find this cost sometimes a challenge. And another mention or something that we would like to highlight is the cost of the cybersecurity management and the requirements. And still, this is for very small providers. When you have regulation in place that you need, that the operators need to take care of the cyber attacks and then all I would say, the quality of information management, that could be a challenge for them. But let's imagine providers with 2,000, 3,000 users, not millions, but those small providers. So sometimes what we see is that there is an opportunity to maybe through associations, maybe, or to groups, to create better conditions to allow them to foster. And with those challenges, what we have in the next slide is just a few recommendations. This project is meant to analyze the waste market and provide the specific recommendations for each market. You saw in the first couple of slides that there is a very different reality among countries. For Brazil, it is more on the side of the market consolidation, which is a very interesting trend that we see. It's normal, I would say. There are big operators or bigger from the PPP. There are big operators that are buying smaller operators. It's normal. That happens not only in the telecom market but other markets. So we are getting for that to that point of reaching to that point of a maturity of the market where there starts a consolidation. And with the consolidation, it comes regulatory challenges. So what we are recommending to Anatel is to take a look and then a deep look of what those consolidation processes with may affect or hinder competition in the specific markets. So maybe evaluate the granularity of the analysis will be a good idea at this point of time. Maybe 5 years ago it was not necessary, but today with the consolidation trend, we'll see this as very useful. Also, another challenge that we have is like, yes, there is good funding programs to PPPs. But from out of this proveedores de pequeño porte, you have very small ones. And those very small ones still have challenges to access because they don't have the structure of the big ones, of the bigger ones, to create a project and present the project for the funds or for Fontel or for others. So the idea of creating advisory programs for those smaller for those smaller or very small providers will be useful. And let's think about rural and remote areas with very small population with a need of maybe having some support from the government or from this universal funds, that those funds can be channeled by those smaller operators. And also, again, about cybersecurity, we see that it is a challenge for very small operators, again, to comply with some regulations. So it's a permanent review. It's a cycle. The market goes very well. Companies start growing, start buying smaller companies. It's a consolidation trend. It's part of the process. You see fiber, migration, from wireless to fiber, and then when we have a good fiber network, then you want to use or to have access to better technologies like 5G, like Wi-Fi 7, and then operators that migrate to fiber are very interested of accessing to spectrum. So it's always a cycle, but it's good to see, at least on I would say, from our point of view, it's good to be able to analyze different stages of the evolution for different countries and how the countries answer to those new challenges with new regulation, with permanent contact with the stakeholders, and just trying to move forward the ecosystem. And this is pretty much what we have for today for you. I would like to thank again DSA for the invitation. I would like to thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to take any questions either now or then the coffee break, something like that. So thank you.